Thank you, Srikanth. So you heard about the macro level changes that happens within regulatory space or your internal risk appetite. Now, let's sort of dissect that into the how what we have seen sort of a trend in across our customer environment when they bring in those regulatory controls and their internal business controls. The process that most often we see is that looking at all the different regulatory requirements in form of thousands of pages of web pages and those PDF or web pages and some cases we have seen customers, they have also subscribed to receive the regulatory updates via email. Now, whether you look at the PDF document about the CFPB regulations or some sort of email subscription, it's an educational experience, but it doesn't translate that into a tactical execution plan, meaning the question that comes down to what do I need to do as a bank? What do you need to do to act upon them, right? So that sort of, that itself takes a lot of time in terms of compiling that. That's in the current process, what you're seeing. Now, looking at those regulatory the requirements and then bringing that into the all the spreadsheet most often that we are seeing that's managed by each department, there is a lot of the manual effort that happens to consolidate the spreadsheet, the existing business controls into, and then all the regulatory controls that are available, then sort of create more spreadsheet, honestly. And there are sort of a lot of redundancies that we have seen. And then on the top of that, you also have, as a bank, you have a lot of policies and procedures, whether it's a governance policy, data access policies, cybersecurity procedures. So on an average, at least there are 20 different policies, procedures, documents are there. Now, understanding which policies are supposed to be changing now with any regulatory change, it's an extremely manual effort to go ahead and do that. And that also needs to be done by someone who understands the business, understand that subject matter as well. So that's creates another sort of challenges. Now it comes down to taking those controls and starting the assessment. And most often what we are seeing is the assessments are done fairly disjointed way, which is taking the control definitions, building code in some sort of isolated fashion and within a very small data set. And it's primarily done by someone who is more focused on the coding and then programming aspect. And that's when they probably don't have a lot of perspective around what is the risk appetite of this control, how it's supposed to be tested, what is the population of the data needs to be available. None of those things are considered. It's about, but most often the focus is about testing the technical aspect of the control, which is a good point, but it doesn't really solve the problem in the control assessment space. So as a result, the control assessment result, creates the output and it measured through the KRIs. And then the audit team comes and reviews that. They said, no, this is not going to work because, based on the regulatory requirements, we have this entire, the data quality or this model, the input that goes into the model has to meet with this 95% KRI, and it doesn't meet it because it was never tested with a full data set. So that audit cycle creates even more pain points and goes back in form of findings and issues, and then cycle continues. So, and that sort of is the current cycle, what we are seeing in most of our the customers that we are working with. Now, as a result, the taking in a regulatory requirement or the existing controls, implementing that into a tactical plan and execution, it takes an average of at least 3 years. And then that's happening with the new regulations. But what about the changes that is happening every year? Now, this year alone, so we are right in September, there are about 200 plus changes already happened, all financial regulations. And so you are always in a catch-up mode to get all the updates and to the initial requirements. And when there is a regulatory review happens, one of the fundamental questions that regulators ask, show me your control framework, but most importantly, show me how you are managing that in a systematic way. What it means in a systematic way is it reproducible? Can you do this at scale? So those are all the questions that are essentially at play here. Now, when they don't find it and you find it only, or it's being done with a lot of human resources, then most likely they issue the notices, and then severity of that finding could cause into even higher severity penalty as well as the regulatory fines.